Hello everybody, this is Havoc and welcome to another different style Manor Lords video, but one that I thought was really important that I really want to push out there. Now, first and foremost, before we begin, as usual, I am associated with Hooded Horse, Manor Lords publisher, so this video has a little bit closer to my heart in terms of expectations and things like that. But if you want to know what that means in terms of association, you can totally click on the video in the video description, and also this Steam post will be here as well. But I felt this was pretty crucially important to go into because there are a lot of expectations on what Manor Lords is and what it isn't, and I think it's really crucially important to not overhype in the sense of expecting to go into this game playing X and getting Y while managing Z, if that makes sense. So we're going to briefly do an overview of what this means. I'm sure you've read a majority of this by now, but it has been quite a journey. During development, the core tester group was around 130 people. Popularity of the game, there's going to be a ton of feedback. And so Slavic wanted to address a lot of things right up front, so that way there is no confusion. Well, there's always going to be confusion, but at least he's been able to say it right up front from his own mouth so that people can point back to this post and be like, hey, look, this is what he means. First, what the game is not. Manor Lords is not a Total War competitor. It's a city builder with battles. Battles are there, but they're not as huge or frequent as you might expect. Majority of gameplay is focused on city building and management. This is one of the biggest parts here. Manor Lords will not be able to compete on the battle scale that Total War brings. Total War has thousands and thousands of troops on ultra settings, etc. Pretty much the maximum battle you're going to have at the end game of Manor Lords Early Access is going to be around 900 people, give or take. So you're talking a handful, maybe a 5v5 in a standard Total War game. Now that's still very impressive, and it is very fun. I've had that experience myself. So not to downplay the tactical battles, but the majority of your gameplay is going to be city building and city building management. Battles do happen. They can happen more frequently depending on your settings, but it again is not the majority of gameplay. It is small scale tactical battles. If you'll go on the channel, you'll see one of those short little cinematic battles, and they do feel fantastic, by the way. I have to say that, like, they do feel fantastic. So it's not a Total War competitor because it cannot compete on the scale. Now, a lot of people have already said that, like, yeah, the scale may not matter, but it's in terms of the tactics and the gameplay of battles. And I will say that is different. And I will say that the battles do feel much more concrete and grounded in Manor Lords than they do in Total War. So there is that aspect. You know, it's not a Total War killer, but definitely, you know, has a lot of aspects of battles that people have been looking for in Total War. Just don't expect the scale to be there. This is also not an empire management or a grand strategy game. There are like, what, 9 regions, something like that on your map in early access. You conquer those, the game's over. You're not conquering the entirety of Europe. You are conquering small boroughs or counties or however you want to approach it. It is a expansive game without a doubt. You can have 1,000 people in each region. It's difficult, but it's possible. But you won't be able to conquer everything. There's not going to be things like marriages or assassinations or political intrigue. None of that is in the game right now. Nor is there the possibility, like as of right now, that's not something that's going to happen. So don't go into this expecting Crusader Kings 3 or Empire Total War or Medieval 2 remade, because the expansive isn't there. It's not designed to be. It is a Manor Lord. You are a local lord. You are not a king. Hope that makes sense. It's also not an RPG. You are not playing necessarily as a embodied physical person that exists and is operating and moving things around. It is your typical strategy game where you are, you know, you're building and you're doing the things you want to do. But this isn't Kingdom Come Deliverance. This isn't Mount and Blade. You can be in third person just as a fun little bonus to the game, but it will not have any effect on the things that you can do around the map. You are not a physical being that exists inside of the game. So that's a pretty good expectation there. This is also not a fast-paced, competitive RTS. I love this line right here, because what I see a lot of people doing on early access is playing at ×4 speed nonstop, and then they get done with the game very quickly and they're like, oh, that's it? No, this game is so cinematic and is so gorgeous, and you will enjoy the game on 1 or even 2 speed. It's so well made that you're not going to get enjoyment or fun out of playing on 3 or 4 speed nonstop. Like, you're not going to experience what Manor Lords is by playing it like Age of Empires or like StarCraft. A lot of the game mechanics focus on aesthetics, and resources take time to be transported around the map. The results mostly in a more relaxed experience, with high intensity moments spicing up atmospheric city building rather than the game being high intensity. That's exactly it. There's been plenty of times when I played where I have played on ×4 or something to get through a slow time, sure. But in between those times, I'm constantly doing things and building and doing stuff at 1 speed that it just looks so good. And I've spent plenty of times building something, setting it at 1 speed with cinematic mode on, and then allowing it to build in real time, and it looks so good. So that's the expectation on what it is not. So that way, when you go into this game, you have a point of reference saying the developer himself has given you an expectation on what the game is not. Now, on to the next point of subject. This is an early access release. Yes, it could be disappointing, but I totally feel like this is the right move, both from him and myself. It's Slavic's first serious game, and there's still a lot of stuff that's unfinished. It will be released into an early access state because he will be actively developing it as time goes on. He also wants to pursue an open development strategy back and forth between himself and the community, where he's able to really craft the game that he and the community both want to play and build and discover. And to follow along with that, he's given so many creators early access to provide the best look that can be had for creators across the genres, across countries, across everything. And the reaction has been very positive because it is a very well-made game. It's just not to the point where it can be a 1.0 access thing. And so I think it will really vibe with the audience that expects Manor Lords to, like he said, be what it is, a realistic, organic, authentic city builder with real-time battles. Now, as for a roadmap, I know this has been asked quite a bit, but there is no roadmap yet, because roadmaps can sometimes pigeonhole developers. There are some developers that work great with roadmaps and they enjoy sticking to them. It works for their style, it works for their personalities, it gives them drive and motivation and direction. But we have seen Slavic make slight roadmap things in the past, and it doesn't work out that great. For instance, in this case, working on a feature only to find the testers didn't care as much as I did. They actually wanted something else. So even if I have a plan, I want to adopt the philosophy of listen, verify, implement. This way, I expect the first month of patches to be just bug fixes and polish, and HForHavoc will be collecting feedback across the board, Steam forums, videos, etc., etc. Now, this is an interesting piece. As for testing of future patches, whether that be open or closed, his current idea is to have an open pre-release beta branch, so everyone who owns the game can check and test the most recent pre-release unstable version and contribute, keeping the main branch as the previous most stable version. Though, again, let him know, but I think that's a really, really solid approach. It allows you to experiment knowing you are experimenting. Against the Storm does this very thing. Workers and Resources does this very thing. There's a lot of, I think, clan folk speaking on Hooded Horse titles. Having an open beta policy, knowing that your experimental branch is exactly that, experimental, allows some really good feedback so that when that update comes, you have a solid, stable build going into the main branch. That's really all it for this, but I really wanted to, again, bring clarity and bring focus and bring attention to this post specifically because, one, it matters a lot to Slavic. And having supported Manor Lords as long as I have since its first announcement, I think it's really, really crucial that we set the expectations to where they are realistically. Realistically, this is not a game that I think a lot of people have honestly said it is. And so to have it from Slavic himself to be like, hey, here is what it all is. And you need to basically come to terms with that it's not going to be some of the things that a lot of people have hyped it up to be. And that's okay. I still think it's going to be a very, very enjoyable game, and I cannot wait for April 26th, everyone to be able to participate. It's going to be an awesome experience, and I'm super excited, just as a content creator, just as a person who loves strategy games. But that's really all I have, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to me rant for just a little bit on this Steam post. Again, it matters a whole lot that we set the expectations right so people aren't disappointed. So if you enjoyed this video, if you agree with the sentiments here, be sure to share it so it kind of gets some exposure across the board, so we can have an awesome release for Slavic, and so that we can really, really enjoy Manor Lords as it is meant to be enjoyed. That's all I got for today. If you like the video, do all the things. Give the video a like, leave your comments in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out my series on Manor Lords going on right now. In fact, the next episode will be releasing in just a little bit while after this. Thank you so much. This is Havoc. I'll see you in the next one.